Just last Thursday, an Israeli strike killed 5 Palestinian journalists outside Al-Awda Hospital in the Nusayrat refugee camp in central Gaza. One of those 5 journalists in their car that was clearly marked press was waiting for his first child to be born inside the hospital.
Those journalists aren't the only ones who have been killed by the Israeli Defense Forces. This is a story we've been focusing on, staying on, because it's important. Without journalists on the ground, we wouldn't know what's happening in Gaza. Now, per a report by the International Federation of Journalists, or IFJ, 64 journalists in Gaza were killed, or Palestine, because this also includes the West Bank, were killed last year alone, making 2024 one of the deadliest years on record for those working in the profession. So the same report found that 122 journalists and media workers were killed in total last year. They also estimated that since the start of the war, which of course was October of 2023, a total of 147 journalists in Palestinian territory have been killed. And look, that might actually be an incredibly conservative estimate. So I'll give you some of the numbers that have come out from other organizations as well. For instance, Al Jazeera has counted 217 journalists killed since October 7th, 2023. And just between December 14th and 26th, 9 journalists have been killed in Gaza, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists, or CPJ. So look, death obviously isn't the only risk, especially if these reporters are operating out of the Gaza Strip, which is, which has been leveled in the north, which continues to be bombarded with IDF bombs that have been supplied by the United States. So the CPJ just reported that in Gaza and the West Bank, since the start of the war, there have been 75 arrests, as well as numerous assaults, threats, cyber attacks, and censorship. As of January 2nd of 2025, meaning today, CPJ's records show that 45 of these journalists were still under arrest. And look, we've shared stories about Palestinian civilians who have been detained without any charges, without any trial, without any reason for their detainment. Some of them have been raped. Some of them have been beaten and abused to death. That is what's currently transpiring right now. And we are arming the individuals who are carrying out this brutality. We are arming the military and the government that's carrying out this brutality against journalists and innocent civilians. For the most part, Israel, by the way, does not allow foreign reporters to enter Gaza. I wonder if it's because maybe they want to dominate the narrative out of Gaza. But satellite imagery shows how much of the Gaza Strip has been leveled, how there's no operating hospital left in the northern region. I mean, at this point, Israeli officials feel so emboldened that they just publicly say exactly what they intend to do. I mean, they made clear that they intended to level the northern half of Gaza, essentially kill anyone who refused to evacuate because they'll consider them an enemy combatant, and that they're going to occupy the northern half of the Gaza Strip. And by the way, they're also going to build settlements there. They've been open about that. And when it comes to the southern part of the Gaza Strip, they're going to occupy that as well. Similarly to how they've been occupying the West Bank illegally. Last year, the Israeli government closed local Al Jazeera offices. And just today, the Palestinian Authority shut down Al Jazeera's office in the West Bank. It's a great way of censoring news media so the public doesn't know what's going on or what the IDF is currently carrying out. The Qatar-based channel was accused of broadcasting inciting materials that were deceiving and stirring strife, according to international media reports, which cited the official Palestinian news agency, WAFA. By the way, I want to make clear that oftentimes, when we cover this type of story, and either I will say or Cenk will say something about how important it is to protect civilians on both sides, and that includes Israeli civilians, inevitably we'll get backlash from some people, not everybody, but we'll get backlash from people who are like, oh, but if you look at this polling, it shows that the vast majority of Israeli civilians are in favor of what the IDF is carrying out. But my response to that is, okay, but when you consider the censorious nature of the Israeli government here, are we really certain that the Israeli public is fully informed about what's being carried out in the Gaza Strip? And let's also be clear. We know what the Israeli settlers are like, but they are not representative of the entire, civilian population in Israel. These are extremists. These are extremists that are oftentimes condemned by most Israeli civilians. So I just want people to be careful with immediately condemning an entire population of people, because honestly, at the end of the day, the people I blame the most for all of this is the far-right Israeli government, their efforts to censor any information coming out of the Gaza Strip, their efforts in killing journalists on the ground there. And I mean, look at this. They're shutting down news offices that are reporting news that they don't like. And propaganda is a powerful thing, man. It really, really is. And, you have Haaretz, and I know that Haaretz has been targeted by the Israeli government in recent months as well. These are Israeli journalists who just want to tell the truth about what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank. And I really do commend them for that. So look, all of these factors make it extraordinarily difficult to be a journalist in Gaza or the West Bank. So as for the 5 journalists who were killed last week, and yeah, you just heard that correctly, 5 journalists were killed last week alone. The Israeli military said its Air Force had struck a vehicle with a terrorist cell from the militant group Palestinian Islamic Jihad inside. They always say the same thing. I mean, it's always the same thing. Oh, we bombed a vehicle with humanitarian workers in it and killed 7 of them. We believe that there was a terrorist cell. Is that all you need to do? We believe that there was a terrorist cell. The media office of Gaza's Hamas-run government said 5 journalists from Al-Quds Today, a Palestinian television channel, were killed in an Israeli strike on their broadcast vehicle. The channel has regularly featured Islamic Jihad leaders and promoted the group's ideology. Meanwhile, the devastation in Gaza continues because, of course, it does. As much as people want us to pretend like this isn't happening, it is happening, and the public should know about it, especially American citizens who are bankrolling this tragedy. Israeli airstrikes killed at least 43 Palestinians across the Gaza Strip today, including 11 people in the sprawling Al-Mawasi tent encampment, designated as a humanitarian safe zone for civilians. Medics said the 11 people killed included women and children because, of course, it did. Of course. And it's not just Israeli airstrikes that are killing children in Gaza. According to UNRWA, 6 newborns have died of hypothermia in the past 2 weeks. They're literally freezing to death. No shelter, no safety, no humanitarian aid. What else would you expect? And if Israel has its way, pretty soon, no media reporting out of the Gaza Strip. And I do believe that's what the Israeli government currently wants. They can't stand the criticism. They want to be able to slaughter without any critique. I mean, are they asking for too much?